Welcome to the Pit Check, your weekly news for the best and heaviest new albums from your favorite extreme metal and hardcore bands. This week we've got some death metal that sounds like it's straight from 1992, some hardcore music that sounds like it has rabies, and a deathcore band that sounds like it's from Baldur's Gate and could probably cast Meteor Swarm. There is a lot to cover this week, so in case I don't get to everything, as always, I'll have the full list of all of the albums that came out this week at the end of the video. So make sure you subscribe to the channel because we do this every week. And let's get right into the reviews for this week's best new albums. First off, we gotta start with one that was released literally the day after I recorded last week's episode, but I could not let it fall through the cracks. You good? The Florida-based symphonic deathcore band Netherwalker has released this masterpiece of an album titled Odyssey of Respair. I'm not kidding when I say I think this album is genuinely flawless. If you love deathcore or brutal death metal that is super technical, unbelievably heavy, and suffocating in atmosphere and orchestration, run, don't walk to pick this one up. This album feels like an amazing D&D campaign. Like, describing it to someone who's unfamiliar might not sound super exhilarating. It's about 3 knights on a perilous journey throughout the realm to save their kingdom. But I swear to God, just give it a shot and actually be open to it, and you will get sucked into this world. And this lore goes deep. This is one where listening to it with the lyrics available is gonna make a huge difference. I thought for sure I had my deathcore album of the year list locked up, and then this album comes out and just debatably tops it. I could spend hours talking about the instrumental prowess of this band, or about how this vocalist is ejecting some of the most foul noises the human body can make, but honestly, just listen to it for yourself. I don't think I could possibly recommend this album highly enough. Netherlands hardcore is nasty. The legendary European hardcore band Born From Pain have released their latest EP titled Siege Mentality. Make sure you give this band their proper respect. These dudes have been ripping some of the toughest old school hardcore since 1997. Their discography is probably older than most of you watching this. And literally 5 seconds into this EP, you'll understand why they've stood the test of time. This is some of that classic New York-inspired hardcore with a ton of those thrashy elements, especially in the guitar work, which gives us these awesome driving riffs and non-stop chugs and double bass. With so much anger and aggression, it feels like a battering ram coming out of your speakers. This is 7 songs at only about 15 minutes, so there is 0 time for repetition or especially filler. This thing is dense. It's been 4 years since their last release, but it seems to be worth it. There's a way to be free. Be Not Afraid. The Canadian deathcore band Angelmaker have released this ungodly heavy new album titled This Used to Be Heaven. So obviously this is a new era for Angelmaker. After the seemingly sudden departure of co-vocalist Mike Greenwood, the job was offered to former Rings of Saturn vocalist Ian Bearer. And dude, don't get me wrong, Mike was one of my favorite vocalists in the game, but Ian brings an overwhelming intensity to this band. And it's almost like Angelmaker was fully aware of the fact that there was going to be all this discussion about the vocals, so the instrumentals then made sure to step it up tenfold. These are some of the craziest riffs and most addictive melodies, showcasing a ton of those tech death and even black metal influences that add this level of grandiosity to the entire album, as well as these little sprinklings of brutal death metal, beatdown, and even MySpace deathcore, which make this band just so deliciously heavy. I loved this album. Angelmaker combines all of the different influences and vibes that I love about extreme metal, and they somehow scratch every itch possible for me. But I am an Angelmaker simp, I get that. I got punched in the throat at an Angelmaker show and I couldn't speak right for like 3 weeks, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. Missing that gritty 90s death metal? The Indiana-based old-school death metal band Flesher has released their latest EP titled Gore on Gore. This EP manages to somehow feel like it was recorded in the 90s, but also feel incredibly fresh. It was cryogenically frozen in 1992. You can really feel that influence from Cannibal Corpse, Bolt Thrower, Autopsy, and especially Obituary. And that Obituary influence makes a lot of sense. This EP was produced by Joe Sincata, who has produced a bunch of Obituary albums, along with like 40 other legendary albums. So it's awesome to see this band using a producer that knows how to solidify this exact sound. And most importantly, doing it without sounding like they're ripping off of the greats, but rather going for a sound that would try to go toe-to-toe with them. And I will say, it's not pure OSDM worship, although that influence is obviously super strong. Flesher still understands there's been 30 plus years of technical progress since then, with them hitting these razor sharp and grindy riffs, and these slow open chugs that never meander or bloat any of the songs. Everything is written with precision and care. Kind of like if Blood Incantation watched a bunch of Grindhouse movies instead of doing acid. This is pure death metal brutality injected into your brainstem. I also quickly wanted to announce that at the end of the year / beginning of next year, we're going to be doing our first ever best of videos. We're going to do a full rundown of the best albums of 2025, and we're going to separate them by genre. So figure there's probably going to be a death metal, hardcore, metalcore, deathcore kind of thing. This will give me time to hang out with my family for the holidays, and also these are much bigger projects than our weekly videos. So then you figure, I don't know, the second or third week of January, we'll be back to our regularly scheduled programming. But thank you to everyone who recommended that I do that. It's a really sick idea, and so we're gonna do it. Midwest meat grinder metalcore. The Indianapolis-based metalcore crossover band Exitwounds has released this highly anticipated new EP titled An Offering to Tragedy. If you want your metalcore just so viciously angry, you can't go wrong with this one. This is like being dragged across concrete, but in song form. I love that these guys don't stay in that totally generic metalcore box, kind of similar to bands like Orthodox or Mugshot or Left to Suffer, where they can be just super abrasive and not afraid to incorporate like more grinding guitar work, and especially deathcore and beatdown hardcore elements. This is an awesome new EP and some of the best work this band has put out thus far. It's only 6 songs and you'll finish it in under 20 minutes, but this is definitely a band that you'll want to keep your eyes on. Baltimore hardcore is going crazy this year. The chaotic hardcore band Gasket has released their debut self-titled album. This album is wall-to-wall insanity. From the second the first song starts, Gasket is trying to gnaw your face off. You might need to call animal control on this album. If you hate when hardcore music is too produced, this one has that sandpaper sound you're looking for. I love how rough around the edges and piercing this band is. The guitars and especially the vocals are just knife sharp, and these drums are constantly just pummeling you. But I love that this band isn't just chaotic. There's also a ton of these old school hardcore punk riffs and melodies, with plenty of two-steps and slow adrenaline buildups, and you guessed it, absurdly violent breakdowns. Low-tuned, dark, and violent Texas death metal. The Houston-based death metal band Terror Corpse has released their debut album titled Ash Eclipse Flesh. This is a fresh new band formed by underground heavy hitters from the bands Insect Warfare, Malignant Altar, and Necrofire, so you should expect more of that old school grimy, brutal death metal sound, but with a heavy dose of Celtic frost. The band said they're influenced by, quote, Disciples of Mockery, Incantation, pre-2000s Morbid Angel, essentially older evil American death metal. And drummer Dauber Beverly, who produced this entire album himself, said, I wanted to essentially have a super low-tuned Celtic frost guitar sound with a modern and large natural drum recording. Big room, big drum sounds, tack on some cavernous, low Craig Pillard style vocals and bass guitar, and you've got our sound. This is such a good album. There is such a welcome variety of songwriting here, with some really unexpected melodies and solos here and there, but then this band will get so slow and heavy and nasty, really feeling like this band is dragging you to hell in a barbed wire handbasket.
What is this? A crossover episode?
The Virginia/Texas-based deathcore band Deadlocked, US, has released their latest EP titled Bitter Murmur. This is one of those albums that's just as fun to listen to as it probably was to make. This is clearly a bunch of friends just having a blast. Not only are the members of Deadlocked themselves from the bands Misery's End and Garden of Serpents, but we've also got features here from Wretched Tongues, I Am Mook, Oracle Spectre, Surefire, and Filth. And yes, they're all filthy. And all of this collaboration and creative energy is just so infectious. The guitars are beefy and thick, and there's a lot of really clever riffing that incorporates a lot of those thal and even djent kind of bouncy grooves, but with these breakdowns that kind of come out of left field because they'll incorporate some of these off-pattern and even syncopated rhythms. This is a quick but super heavy new release. It's 6 songs that'll run just about under 14 minutes, but even within that time frame, there is so much diversity here. I mean, especially within these unbelievable vocals. Literally every vocalist is performing some kind of vocal Olympics, but even as a band, they make sure they don't just circle the drain with one sound. They'll melt your face off, whether they're slow and nasty, or they're shredding, or they're emotional, or just angry. And definitely make sure you check out the band My Ticket Home. Especially if you love that 2000s nu metal influence in your metalcore. I used to love this band in college, and I always thought they were kind of ahead of their time with this specific sound. Seraph, or xSeraphx, has also put out a crazy 2-song demo that is just insane. They've also teased more music for 2026, so I hope it's a full length. And finally, Graypath is some really hard-hitting and technical metalcore. I actually loved this release, but it is only 3 songs, so I kind of had to prioritize some of the stuff that had a little bit more meat on the bones. And of course, here is the full list of all of the albums that came out this week. If there's anything I missed here or anything I should have spent more time on, please let me know in the comments below. And then finally, if you are in a band or you have a clothing company and you have any leftover tour merch or anything you're not using, feel free to send it my way. I'll happily wear it on the show. Thank you again for joining me on these weekly album roundups, and I'll catch you next week for next week's best new albums.